The Alabama Farmers Federation and the Alabama Farmers Cooperative proudly present Simply Southern with your hosts Jim Allen and Mary Johns.
Hello and thanks for joining us again. I'm Jim Allen.
And I'm Mary Johns. Today on Simply Southern, you'll meet a young lady whose passion for agriculture is stronger than any disability.
She's always right in the middle of everything, from tagging, helping tag the calves, vaccinate the calves, everything from when they're born to when they're grown.
We'll also meet an Alabama craftsman who is keeping penmanship alive with his unique handmade creations.
I like things that are unusual, things with a history behind them, things that have that extra something.
Sidney Phelps of Bonnie Plants is cooking up a big batch of comfort food today, butternut squash soup.
But we'll start at Frontier Days in Wetumpka, where 21st century Alabamians can experience the lifestyle of the 18th century.
What sustains us? Food? Family? Faith. Alabama farmers live those things every day. They conserve our resources, clothe our families, and fill our tables. They cultivate jobs for our communities and values for our future. Farmers grow it all right here in Alabama.
There's no such thing as downtime when you own a farm. This is your land. You tend it and try to get the most from it, no matter the weather or time of day. It's been that way for generations. And for generations, your local quality co-op store has been there for you, with a full range of agriculture supplies and services, from feed to fertilizer, seed to grain storage, and the right hardware for any application. You'll always find what you need, plus friendly, knowledgeable advice at your local quality co-op store. There's one near you.
This year marks Alabama's bicentennial, but 200 years is a drop in the bucket when it comes to the state's history. Elmore County is home to a National Historic Landmark that attracted its first settlers thousands of years ago, and today attracts thousands to experience living history. Melissa Bowman takes us to Fort Toulouse, Fort Jackson Park.
If you ever find yourself on Highway 231 in Wetumpka and hear cannons firing, don't worry, it's not your imagination. Although, if you venture just off the highway, you might think you've entered another time zone, one hundreds of years in the past.
Today we have the biggest event of the year. We have an event called Alabama Frontier Days. This is the 23rd edition of this program, and it seeks to bring to life Alabama history.
Frontier Days occurs every November at Fort Toulouse, Fort Jackson Park in Wetumpka. Thousands of families and school groups visit the National Historic Landmark to catch a glimpse of what life was like on the Alabama frontier in the 18th and 19th centuries.
We will see roughly 11 to 12,000 people, and 9 to 10,000 is associated with the school visit. So you could see this is the largest education event in the state of Alabama.
At Frontier Days, visitors can experience more than one aspect of Alabama history. The grounds were the site of both Fort Toulouse, controlled by the French in the 1700s, as well as Fort Jackson, occupied by Americans during the War of 1812. But the forts represent only a fraction of this land's history. Over centuries, the Spanish, British, French, and Americans left their mark. But well before their time, Native Americans called the area home. The park features recreated Creek Indian homes, in addition to an original mound built over 1,000 years ago during the Mississippian period. So what was it about this particular place that attracted so many?
What makes this place so popular for people over an 8,000-year period is the rivers. They're the interstate highways of history, and we have three. Here, almost in the center of Alabama, the Coosa, the Tallapoosa, and the Alabama rivers come together.
While easy access to waterways enticed early explorers, the rare opportunity to witness living history in the very place it happened draws visitors today.
Here you can take a step back in time to experience what daily life was like for people who lived centuries before us. It's hard to believe that just beyond these beautiful grounds is a busy highway full of modern amenities. But here you can connect with history, and you don't even need Wi-Fi.
We can learn from a book, we can learn from a story, but to go see the place where things actually happen gives a direct connection to the past.
That connection is reinforced by over 200 historical reenactors who provide an authentic depiction of frontier life. For them, it's more than wearing period costumes.
We try to actually research the lives, the social mores, the behavioral patterns, everything of these people.
Some of the reenactors travel from as far away as Minnesota and Wyoming, participating in other historical events along the way. But there's something special about Fort Toulouse, Fort Jackson Park that keeps them coming back, some for over 20 or 30 years.
Sometimes you go to other locations and they're small, and yes, they have a nice little history, but they don't have the range of history that this place has.
That range of history includes a significant event for Alabama. When the Treaty of Fort Jackson was signed in 1814, the Creek Nation ceded millions of acres of land to the United States. Part of those lands would become Alabama.
You could say with a good argument that Alabama is born here on this site with that Treaty of Fort Jackson.
Today, over 50,000 Alabamians and visitors from neighboring states pass through the park annually. Everyone who comes can retrace the footsteps of history and discover it's a blast to learn about the past. For Simply Southern, I'm Melissa Bowman.
Perfect job.
The park grounds are open to the public year-round, of course, weather permitting, but you can go there any day of the week, 8 to 5.
And if you're headed that way, admission is just $2 for adults and $1 for students.
It's also a great place if you have an RV. You can pack it up and spend a little time there. They have an RV park that overlooks the Coosa River.
Up next, pens are a good tool for telling a story, but the pens Joel Lockridge makes are a story in themselves.
Soybean is a very versatile product. We make crayons out of it.
A lot of the combines you see rolling through the fields have a lot of plastic side panels that are made from a soy product.
The soybeans that we grow on our farm mostly goes into chicken feed.
Soybean production in Alabama employs over 10,000 people.
We grow some of the best soybeans in the world.
We go the extra mile to make sure when our name is stamped on it, we know it's the best product we can produce.
You could see it before anyone else. Your future, your own place, independence. It's not perfect, but you love it. A place to grow, to be yourself.
All for a better life.
Dream big. Alpha Insurance.
All for a better life.
Protect your dream with Alpha's new business owner policies.
A farmer has to live on faith. We do all we can do, but we can only control so much.
Alabama is the second largest poultry growing state in the nation, so we're trying our best to grow all the corn we can for that.
What we produce not only feeds and clothes all of the United States, but about half of what we make goes on to the world market.
We've been able to improve yields, have some things that can help us produce a better crop. I'm proud of the product we make and proud that I can say I'm an Alabama farmer.
The Humble pen has existed nearly as long as the history records it's helped create. From the ancient Egyptians' use of reeds to bird feather quills and the ballpoints of today, pens have come in many forms. Well, unique pens are a specialty of Joel Lockridge of Alabaster, who can turn just about anything he gets his hands on into a custom keepsake. Joel Lockridge is no stranger to the wood shop. Growing up, he learned to turn a hunk of maple or pine into almost anything he could dream up. But it took an ironic twist of fate to turn his part-time distraction into an unexpected opportunity.
Most woodworkers end up trying something new and moving from item to item. Me, it was accidental. I had a little bit of a table saw accident about 8 years ago. And while I was healing from that, I went to a pen turning demo and I said, that looks like fun.
Whether it's a classic piece of lumber or something a little more unconventional, Joel transforms a wide variety of materials into elegant writing instruments. His most popular creations, however, come from the world of spirits.
A friend of mine in Kentucky sent me a barrel stave from a bourbon barrel and said, make me a pen out of this. I started getting bourbon barrels from different distilleries, and when people started being able to choose their favorite style pen made from their favorite bourbon barrel, that's when it all took off.
Folks, if you're looking to dress up that cup of papermates cluttering up your desk, Joel is your man. Through art shows and website sales, his company, Bourbon Pens, has built a reputation for creative design and handmade quality. I can't say I've ever given much thought to what goes into making a pen, but it's a fascinating thing to watch.
Every pen starts out as a block of wood. There's a hole drilled through it that's specific to the style pen I'm making. It has to be squared to the tube so the hardware matches up. Then it's turned, sanded, polished, finished, and put together as a finished product. I like things that are unusual, things with a history behind them, things that have that extra something. I've got alligator jawbone, where it's made from the jaw of an alligator. You can see where the tooth sockets were. One of my favorite items is called ancient bog oak. It's a wood from the peat bogs in England. It's wood that's between 4,000 and 6,000 years old. Peat absorbs oxygen when things fall into the bog, so it can't decay. When those trees were alive, there were woolly mammoths around. The pyramids had not been built, and they were still 1,000 years away from stacking up Stonehenge.
Joel's pens come in a variety of shapes and styles, whether you're a fan of a classic fountain nib or more comfortable with a plain old ballpoint. For bourbon fans, he's created pens out of barrels hailing from almost any distillery on the shelf. Other customers have more unusual requests. Every new challenge is part of what makes it all worthwhile for Joel, because he's not just selling a pen, he's ultimately selling a story.
A lot of what I do is successful because of the story behind them. I like items that do have a story, that have a history, that have an extra something to them. And yeah, people are really paying attention to how it feels, how it works, how it was made by one of their neighbors. I love the look on people's faces when they hold the crafted items and say, oh, will you look at this? And it's nice to me to be able to have that smile.
While pens are Joel's specialty, he also has used his skills to create custom shaving razors, pepper mills, and more. To get a better idea of everything Joel has to offer, be sure to check out his online store at bourbonpens.com. Coming up next on Simply Southern, you'll meet a young lady who refuses to allow a disability to prevent her from enjoying her passion for agriculture.
One out of 4 Alabama residents have benefited from the Alabama Cooperative Extension System. Last year, Master Gardener Managed Gardens donated $150,000 worth of fruits and vegetables to food banks, and over 25,000 young people developed math, science, technology, and engineering skills through 4-H. Now what we want to know is, how can we help you?
The versatile peanut. Meat of the earth, friend of the soil. Tasty, nutritious, packed with protein. And Alabama peanut farmers nourish some very special things. Families, communities, and Alabama's economy. Peanuts. Good for you, good for Alabama.
And now, an Alabama tourism spotlight from Sweet Home, Alabama. While visiting the coast of Alabama, Take a break from the beach and head up to Fairhope, where you can discover the Fairhope Museum of History. Located downtown in a 1928 Spanish mission-style building, this time capsule plays host to memorabilia and remnants as far back as Native American Indians. With a vast collection of artifacts, signage, and even an old fire truck, the museum preserves history while continuing to tell the story of Fairhope. Enjoy Fairhope ground tea while listening to a weekly lecture on the founding of the city and hear of the influences that make Fairhope a worthwhile stop in Alabama. Let the story of Fairhope become a part of your story. For your next adventure, go online to alabama.travel.
We've been raising fish for 33 years. Our farm and the catfish farms in Hale County in this area have had a huge impact on the labor, offering jobs. It's been a big economic boom for West Alabama. Our family is fully invested in U.S. farm-raised catfish.
Born with spina bifida, doctors told Shelby Traylor's parents she would never walk, much less enjoy many other things most of us take for granted.
But as Kevin Worthington tells us, this young lady has been amazing everyone since she was 8 days old.
It might seem unusual for someone with a serious medical condition to be leading around a 900-pound cow, but this is just what Shelby Traylor does for fun.
I have spina bifida. I was never supposed to walk. My back was open when I was born.
If her parents had listened to doctors, Shelby would never have even been born.
They wanted us to abort her, which was not in our vocabulary. I always said if it was 1 day or 1 week or 1 hour, 1 minute, whatever, that's what God had dealt me and that's what we were gonna do. They had told us that she'd be paralyzed from the waist down, not have any functions or be able to do anything. But we just continued to pray and got our family and friends and churches and everybody to pray with us, and we knew He was in control and He wouldn't give us anything we couldn't handle.
Despite further recommendations to end her pregnancy, Michelle carried her baby to term. It wasn't long after Shelby was born that she and Richie realized they had made the right decision.
By the time I did get to go see her that afternoon, they'd already had to roll up blankets and stick around her bed because she was kicking the glass.
They told us to get ready to go over to the Ronald McDonald house because we was probably going to be staying over there because Shelby's probably going to be in intensive care for a long time. And then we got to the Ronald McDonald house and was fixing to unpack her stuff, and they called and said, y'all come to the hospital. Shelby's doing so good. We need her room in intensive care, and we're going to put her in a regular room. And I think it was 8 days she was home, 7 or 8 days.
Yeah, they told us we'd be there a minimum of 30 days. And
she got to come home in 8 days.
Yeah.
Just 4 years later, Shelby was leading dairy calves around a show ring at the Alabama National Fair in Montgomery. And she and her younger sister Sarah have continued in each of the 14 years since. Shelby says the shows are fun, but there's a lot of work that goes into preparation.
You have to start working with them a couple months before the shows and work with them every day. Put them on a halter, lead them around, teach them how to set up and everything so that they're ready to go in the ring.
Working with her calves is in addition to her responsibilities on the family farm. With beef and dairy cattle, plus chickens, there's always plenty to do. Although she has more limitations than other family members, Shelby's parents say she's an important part of the operation.
She's always right in the middle of everything, from tagging, helping tag the calves, vaccinate the calves, everything from when they're born to when they're grown.
Yeah, there's a lot that she can do,
She keeps her daddy in line. She'll on a rainy day, she'll be sitting here in the house, or we'll be in the house, and she'll come up with all these cows need to be weaned, all the pastures in the farm. these calves need to be weaned this day, and these calves need to be weaned this day, and these need to be vaccinated, and these need to be done this.
But whether it's daily chores on the farm or loading up and going to a cattle show, the Traylors say the best thing about their life is that they do as much as they can together as a family.
We are very seldom apart. Normally we do everything together. Work the cows, clean the house, trips, whatever. We just...
And a lot of times they will be competing against each other, and it don't matter to them, who wins, because you got 3 shows, 3 different judges, so one day one might win, the next day the other might win. So
Sarah gets just as happy for Shelby, and Shelby gets happy for Sarah. And they're not competitive, they're there to have a good time.
For Simply Southern, I'm Kevin Worthington.
What one thing can you say about your local quality co-op store? You can trust us. You get what you need for your farm, for your lawn and garden, and the safest products for your pets. We're locally owned and operated, and you can trust that we care about our community and the people in it. So if you're a raised bed gardener, a rose gardener, or if you farm hundreds of acres, the Quality Co-op Store has exactly what you need to get the job done. All this plus friendly, knowledgeable advice. Your Quality Co-op Store. There's one near you.
What we eat, what we wear. It all starts somewhere. And if it's good, it usually starts with a farmer. And that somewhere is right here in Alabama. In a field, in a barn, on a tractor. Right now, there's a farmer starting something good for all of us. And it all starts right here in Alabama.
For more Simply Southern, be sure to follow us on social media. And while you're online, visit our website, simplysouthern.tv.net. Simply Southern will continue in a moment.
We believe a plant should be more than a plant. This one is. It's all you need for your garden to succeed because it's a Bonnie plant. It represents hundreds of varieties of Bonnie's quality veggies and herbs. But more, it's from generations of Bonnie people who are passionate about sharing their love of gardening with you. Look for this little Bonnie plant and a whole family of plants like it in your garden center. Bonnie plants, so you'll know how to grow.
Hey folks, Sidney Phelps here with Bonnie Plants. We're back in the kitchen today and we're working on something that's great for those cool days or cool nights or when you want something that's good and hearty and creamy. We're going to work with butternut squash today in creating a butternut soup. So first things first, we've got 3 cups of water that I'm bringing up to a boil here on the stove. I'm just going to remove the top here. Just a few ingredients to this. It is very creamy. It is a very rich soup. So we'll get the first level of ingredients in here. We'll start off with 4 chicken bouillon cubes. You can use chicken broth if you're working with something around the same time, if you're boiling any style chickens, but bouillon cubes are easy, so we're just gonna toss those in there. I've got 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, so we're just gonna mix that in there. That's gonna give a little bit of flavor, so we're gonna toss that in. And then butter makes everything better. It makes it very creamy, so we've got 4 tablespoons of butter that we're going to add into this water here. So while the water's getting heated up, you're going to get the butter in there, let it start melting down into the process of getting ready. And then we've got 6 tablespoons of onion. So the onion's going to be part of this, and don't worry about how you cut the onion. We put this through the food processor earlier to mince it up really good, and basically got us ready to go. But we're gonna run all of this once it gets cooked back through a food processor to get good and creamy. So we're gonna set that to the side, and then we're gonna start with some salt and pepper. So we're just gonna add a little bit of pepper for flavor and a little bit of salt. And it's gonna take 6 cups of butternut squash. I've already started the process of basically cutting and peeling 1 butternut squash. So I've got 4 cups here. And we're just going to add this into the water. So let everything kind of go together here. All right. So So just mix that in, stir it in really good. And we're gonna keep this covered so that we can get a constant temperature through that. We've got it on about a medium heat, kind of a low and slow, lets everything kind of marinate together and cook. But while we're getting this going, I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the squash itself. So with the butternut squash, these are really tough skins. They're very heavy, they're very firm. So you wanna be very careful when you're working on that. The best way that I find to work with this is just cut it straight down the middle first. Like I said, you really got to watch it because it is very firm. So once you have a flat surface, when we get the cut, we're going to lay it on that flat surface, and now we're going to start the process of trimming it. So you just want to take your knife on the edge of it. Like we said, you got to be very careful with this. They are tough skins. Work around that edge and just peel the skins back. All right. We're going to chop the top off. All right. So now once you get that, you're basically just going to start making slices like you were slicing a pineapple. And again, these are very stiff, very firm squash. So lay that out. And now we're basically just going to dice. Just like anything else, you want to make sure that you've got even cuts. That way it cooks evenly. So we're looking at about 1/2 inch pieces, and then we're just going to throw them in there like this. So cubes, the firmness of a butternut squash, you really got to start watching how you handle everything with that. So we're going to throw this into the pot. This is going to take about 25-30 minutes on the stove boiling to start softening up the squash, and at that point we can throw it in the blender and puree everything down, throw it back on the pot for another 10 to 15 minutes to let everything stew together on low and slow. And with that, you've got a great, creamy butternut squash.
BonniePlants.com has lots of other recipes to help you prepare the stuff that comes out of your backyard garden. And if you need some help out there, ask Sidney by emailing him at simplysouthern@alifarm.com.
Well, Mary, our 30 minutes is up. Thanks to all of you for watching today. Join us again next week when we'll hang out with a bunch of real turkeys.
And we'll meet a South Alabama farmer and his unusual livestock.
Chickens.
Bigger.
Pigs.
Bigger.
Cows.
Even bigger, but you're gonna have to tune in to find out what it is. I'm Mary Johns.
And I'm Jim Allen. We'll see you again next week.
Simply Southern is a production of the Alabama Farmers Cooperative and the Alabama Farmers Federation.